Let's go.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader.
Today's show is sponsored by Sourcewell.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. It's David Horsager, and I have an immensely special treat today. He is trusted by over 500 million people for sure, because you've sold that many books, and there's a whole lot more we're going to say, but welcome to the show, Mark Victor Hansen.
My great pleasure and honor. Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to start out, so many people know you, know your work around the world, philanthropist and author and a leader to many, many, many. But it is interesting to go back to some of, maybe not the very beginning, but 500 million copies of Chicken and Soup for the Soul. You were the co-creator in that and founder. We're going to talk about your new book. Yeah, there it is. We can all see it. Those that are watching by video. I just, for those of you who don't know, dozens of books, and he and his wife wrote the new one we're going to talk about after a bit. There it is, Ask, and it is Ask, Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. That's going to be a wonderful conversation and a large part of this. But you might remember a few of these: the 1 Minute Millionaire and How to Make the Rest of Your Life the Best Life, the Aladdin Factor, Dare to Win, Richest Kids in America, a whole lot of books here. He's been honored to be inducted into many halls of fame and has earned the Horatio Alger Award, which is just a fantastic honor, as we know. I wanted to start with something, though. Mark Victor Hansen, one thing I've noticed about you is I've watched you, been in the same room with you, watched you on stage, but also as just in speaking and writing and all these things. Something that stands out about you compared to many others is, and you've said this, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals, or it can look like 11. And what I've noticed in your collaboration, if there was another word I would say about you other than generous and giver and world changer with your leadership and work, you have had this affinity for collaboration, welcome collaboration. Way back, many people are protecting of their work, but even in the new book, you're shining the light on so many others' stories. And Chicken and Soup is a whole built on collaboration. And much of your work, the new book, Ask, you and your wife are collaborating on that. But and now the money you're giving to try to create energy and efficiency, pure water to the world, it's a collaboration effort. Tell me where you got that just willingness to take a risk and collaborate, and why that's such a part of your life.
Well, first of all, I think everyone should take calculated risks. And the collaboration, if you read Napoleon Hill, who studied Andrew Carnegie, and I'm scholarly in both, and I hope you watch the videos on both of them on YouTube, but Andrew Carnegie said, hey, look, what you have to have is a mastermind alliance. And he saw that Jesus had 12 disciples all synchromesh. And he never did his first miracle until he had this synchromesh mind power. So I read that, 50 years ago in 1974 when I went bankrupt and started speaking and all this. And I said, wow, if that's true, the rest of my life, I got to have a mastermind, because you create a third new invisible, invincible, unstoppable mind. And that's what I have with my wife. And that's what Jack and I had when we created Chicken Soup. And 144 publishers all actually said, hit the road, Jack. And I said, look, it's okay if you don't like him. But I'm a really nice guy. Now, Jack's wonderful, as you know, and third in his class at Harvard and all that good stuff. But the fact of the matter is that I'm the outside guy. He's the inside guy. And we were a perfect mastermind to create, Chicken Soup and get a little invisible publisher to be one of the biggest in the world, HCI, which people think it means Hansen Canfield Inc. It's actually Health Communications. I wish that we'd owned it. That'd even be better for us.
Absolutely. Well, 144 no's. I think back to my first book and the no's, and finally being picked up by I think the biggest publisher in our genre in the world at the time, but I tell the story sometimes of the no's, and I don't want to hear mine, but I want to hear yours about, this perseverance, because I think it gets a little bit to this. I don't want to jump the gun too early on the book, ask, but you are willing to keep on keeping on. What kept you going?
I'll go there, but I want to first hit the no that you did. It's a two-part question you asked for my ears. And I got one of the guys we interviewed in our great book Ask is Peter Guber, the world's biggest movie maker, 50 Academy Awards, Rocky, Batman, and bought a little thing. We were sitting with him at dinner one night, and after we'd taken a vacation with him, and he said, I bought a little sports team today. And I go, he's older than I am. And I go, right. Okay, so I give up who? And he said, Golden State Warriors. I said, really? I said, now remember, I came out of poverty, so this isn't like, I thought if I ever became a millionaire, it'd be a big deal. But he said, I bought it. I said, so how much did you pay? He said, 170 million. Well, now it's worth about 3.8 billion about 7 or 8 years later. Back to it, though. What Peter did is he interviewed me. You can go on YouTube and see Peter Guber and Mark Victor Hansen. And what's so beautiful is he said, Mark, I'm not dyslexic, but he said, Mark is so dyslexic that he thinks the word no means on. And it does at some levels, because if you get rejected and you don't take it personally, I teach a clean 4-letter word in our book, Ask, N-E-X-T, next. Because, we had to go through 144 people that said, hit the road, and we're not taking your book. And then a lot of them came up to my wife and I later and said, boy, that mistake cost me tens of millions of dollars. I said, it certainly did, because the book's done $2 billion in licensing. I created licensing in books. Nobody had ever done it before. And we did $1 billion there. So, if you have trust, and if you have gumption, if you have, most importantly, self-determination to action, and you're willing to overcome and understand that failure isn't final. Failure is just a learning experience that you can go over, under, around, or through every obstacle and get to the other side if you know how to ask.
Into this time, because that speaks of the challenges of the saying no, but we just came through a crisis here, worldwide pandemic. There's some social unrest. You said in one of your writings, crisis equals opportunity. What's that meant for you?
Oh boy. Okay, so first of all, I worked in China 80 times. I mean, we sold 374 million books there, and they have this sign that everyone's seen, the yin and the yang, and that's where it comes from. It's a 6,000-year-old symbol, so it's got juice to it. Crisis equals opportunity. And in the stock market, they obviously say volatility is where you make it. When it's down, you buy it. That's called discount buying. That's what Warren Buffett, if you read today's news, he's got $250 billion on the sideline. And he says, look, the market's going to crash. It's inevitable. I just don't know when. And when it does, I'll just buy. Right? Because then instead of paying $1 for $1, you're paying 10 cents or 1 cent for $1. And that's how John Paul Getty bought the whole oil industry, and a penny on $1 during the Depression, the Great Depression. And now I don't want any of that to happen. But you asked 2 or 3 questions. I'm putting it together maybe too much. But I'm saying, look, crisis equals opportunity. We're in this cocoon. And the only way out of the cocoon is if you learn how to ask questions to find the subtitle of the book is From the Bridge to Your Dreams. All of us have dreams, hopefully, to your destiny. If you don't have dreams, you're not alive, right? And no matter what your chronology, whether you're a little kid, I dream of getting a bicycle, or you're a big kid, I dream of going fishing, or I dream of learning a new language or getting to travel again. We need to make all that stuff happen again, and everybody's got to go to their destiny. That's what I'm recommending.
Well, we're there now. Let's talk about this book, and then let's jump back to leadership even more afterwards, because we've jumped in, and I think, boy, that's what it is. Ask, bridge from your dreams to your destiny. And there's so many. I can't state it enough. There are so many powerful concepts. I think you even said something in a video I watched about it, that this, of all these books and all this is what you believe is your most important work. Why do you say that?
Well, I've been blessed to sell, 318 books. 312 books done. I'll have 318 by the end of the year, and 59 times number one. But Ask is changing people at a time they need to get changed. People are, we say there's 7 roadblocks to asking, and I can go into those in a minute, but everybody's sucked into this fear. And, there's the fear of the malaise of fear. And then there's the fear of just your neighbor now, because we've been so divisional, and we need leadership to bring back trust, to bring back agreement, to bring back harmony.
So let's talk about those. We can think, well, asking for ourselves. You have even different pieces. Ask for myself, ask God. Some of these different ways of asking. But let's talk about the roadblocks to asking, because we can't get anywhere unless we get rid of some of these roadblocks. Blocks. Number one was unworthiness. It kind of starts with yourself, but give you a clue. And people need to get the book. We're not going to get through it all, but I want to just give enough so people see the value of learning to ask well and the power of asking. And you have a whole section on the benefits of asking. But let's talk. Just give us a brief on these roadblocks so people can start to uncover some.
Good. What we say is there's 3 channels to asking: ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And at any given time, then we got 7 roadblocks. The first one you just hit was unworthiness. Then you got doubt. Then you got fear. Then you got pattern paralysis. Then you got naivete. Then you got disconnection. Then you got excuseology. And we can switch the order. It doesn't matter. And we can talk to any one of them. But every one of us has felt some of them. And what our book does, based on now, we got all these gazillion readers around the world that are looking at a mirror for the first time and are going, holy cow, this is the thing that stifled, stopped, thwarted me. And I'm saying, hey, wait a second. I'm asking you to find out. Well, my wife says every one of us has 4 times more talent, ability, skills, and genius inside than we're using. And the only way to bring it out is asking. And the only way to get over all the problems that all of us are having, David, is if we start to ask, and we ask wisely with love, and we transcend our current human limitations. And at some levels, the ask God means you go to a divine wisdom about your own life and your own destiny, because we believe everybody was coded at birth with a destiny and maybe multiplicity of destinies. It's like when Werner von Braun, which I got to meet when Bucky was senior advisor at NASA when I was a little kid at 21, he said, when we're going to the moon, 99% of the time we're off target and we just got to keep reshuffling. Well, that's what questions do, right? It's like people say, well, how do you and Crystal have the greatest love affair? Well, I say it's like looking at the sculpture of David in Florence, Italy, and they said to Michelangelo, how you make it, David? He said, I chip you out everything. It's not David. So we get rid of our baggage by asking questions about our self-worth and our worthiness and our self-esteem, and making sure that we feel good about ourselves, good about each other, because it says love your neighbor as yourself, meaning you got to have positive and correct, real self-love before you can love anyone else.
So what would some of those?
Be an answer?
Yeah, well, that's an answer. That's for sure. That's a good one. But let's take a look at some of the questions. You have these golden nugget, questions that we can ask, and just a whole lot of takeaways that you can use in the book or apply. But if I've got these roadblocks, and it, like, how do I start asking the right questions to, maybe it's to myself at first?
Well, excellent question. First of all, obviously you ought to do it to yourself. And when you're reading the questions in the book on ask yourself, ask others, and ask God, start to write them out, because when you write out the answers, you have levels of illumination, revelation, insight, wisdom. And pretty soon when you ask those questions, you go, oh my goodness, I could do that. And it's a wake up. Now, the second thing to do is you buddy up with somebody. It could be your spouse, it could be a church friend, it could be a business partner, it could be another leader, it could be a telephone mentor, a Zoom link. I don't care how you do it, but if 2 people go through all these questions, they are transformative, because our corporate symbol, as you know, is a butterfly. And what happens is a caterpillar, you can't look at caterpillar and predict butterfly, but we've all been in this COVID lockdown, which I'm going to call a cocoon rather than a chrysalis for right now. And in the cocoon, the only way to break through is with questions. When I was bankrupt and upside down in 1974 and lost $2 million in a day, I asked the wrong question. I said, oh my gosh, what if I go bankrupt? And I checked a book out of the library, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself. And then for 6 months, I'm sleeping in front of another guy's room. I think you probably heard me tell this story, in a sleeping bag. And I kept saying to myself, ask yourself, ask others, ask God. I didn't really know that, but I said, what do I want to do? And I said, I want to talk to people that care about things that matter, that would make a life transformative difference. I go to my 3 roommates in Hicksville, Long Island, New York, at breakfast, and I say, guys, I decided what I want to be. I think I want to grow up and be a professional speaker. Do you know anyone that's young that's not a Broadway actor, because we're in New York, not an actor, actress, a doctor, a lawyer, or some sort of celebrity, and about my age or a little older? Guy said, there's a kid a little older than you. Here's my ticket. I was going to go hear him. He's phenomenal. It's Chip Collins. You're going to like him. I jump in my little beat up old Volkswagen to bankruptcy courts and not taken, race out to Hauppauge, Long Island, New York. For 3 hours, this guy mesmerized everybody. At the end of which I walk up to him and I say, Chip, I'm Mark Victor Hansen. May I ask you to lunch? I want to buy your lunch and you teach me how to do this speaking business. He said, look, kid, chance you making is 1 in 1,000. You ain't going to make it. So go do a real business. I said, no, this is the one I want. I'm convinced. Let me decide. And he said, okay, you stay out of real estate. I own this business in the 5-borough area and you go into life insurance. And I didn't know what a life insurance was or premium or anything, but I said, okay. And I wrote notes, called on 10 people the next day. The 10th guy, he said 1 in 10 would buy. And I thought, what a great thing. And the guy was a giant. I mean, this guy weighed 450 pounds naked with no ink pen on him. I mean, he was just big. He said, I'm Tony. I'm number one with Metropolitan, the number one company, Mark. Here's the directory. You call everybody. It was like 7 at night. You tell them Big Tony told you. And so I got talks like crazy. So I did it. Tony Robbins and I were talking once on a big seminar together, and we talked backstage, and each of us had done 1,000 talks a year the first 3 years. I mean, I was either talking or selling talks, and they're like 45-minute talks, 20-minute talks, whatever they let me do and get paid for. And people kept saying, do you have that in a book? And it's amazing. We did the book. I don't know where it is on the shelf here, but here it is. First book I did is called Stand Up, Speak Out, and Win. And I said to the little audience, and now remember, I'm talking to 6 people, 10 people, never more than 50. And I said, this is not a New York Times bestseller. It's not a national bestseller, but it is my bestseller. And I want to assign it to you, your wife, your kids. And if you got a dog, I want to put your dog in here. And did what you're doing, David. Go, this guy's ridiculous, but all 6 of them out of 6 or 20 out of 20 would buy it. And I sold 20,000 copies from the little platforms in 1 year. I went from zero to hero again. I went from bankruptcy to earning 200,000. Now today, that's like $2 million. And I thought, oh man, I'm in heaven. I'm going to just go back and really write and think this stuff through. And now 312 books later, I think it's going to work.
That's well, and you know, what's interesting here is, I mean, it uncovers something that people see the success now, and certainly there's perseverance in this work. We talk about doing the work, but what was that like on your family, young kids, all that? I remember, I think a story you told one time to me about just you're both, you know, falling asleep on planes from one end of the country to the other when Chicken and Soup was going crazy. And I just think, how did you know, stay in touch with the mentors you had, the mastermind you had? How did you keep up with your being a dad and whatnot, you know?
By the way, I've never had anyone ask that question. First of all, thank you for the question. And it's true. When Jack and I, first of all, nobody would take the book, 144 people. And then an agent who and I won't name him, but he fired us. And that's cost him like tens of millions of dollars, right? So I'll leave him out of this thing because there's no reason to besmirch anyone ever if I can do it, not do it. We went to the ABA, American Booksellers. We walked in and like we put together the best stories from different people. And the first guy to come up to us, we had a big beard and he looked like Santa Claus, except he was wearing a suit. And I thought, wow. And the guy kissed both cheeks and said, boy, you're really going to make it. I thought, let me look at your name tag. Who in the hell are you? And it turned out to be Dr. Robert Fulghum, the guy who wrote Everything I Need to Learn, I Learned in Kindergarten, which, I mean, I'm an addicted reader. And remember, I was illiterate in school, you know, from first grade to sixth grade. I was in remedial reading because my parents, we had no books at our house. My parents were Danish. I lived in Little Denmark, and I thought everybody went to the Danish Brotherhood on Saturday night and ate medisterfilts and gefilte fish and stuff you don't even know the names of, and fricadilla and stuff, which is fine. But luckily, they taught me to read, and now I'm world's best-selling author, so it shows that you can transform. There's hope. Anyhow, so Jack and I are there, and the guy says, you're really going to succeed big. And he told me, not Jack. Jack was standing with me and going, who was that? I said, that's Dr. Fulghum, one of our favorite. He said, why didn't he talk to me? I said, you got me. I don't know why he talked to me. How did he know who I was? And maybe he was just being nice to everybody. I don't know. Anyhow, so we got turned down by a lot more booths, and then one little house, health communication, HCI, took us because the guy said, yesterday you gave it. We were there 3 days, which we'd been talking 17 days in a row, and I got to go tell my wife, oh my God, you're not going to believe it. I'm going over to Anaheim Convention Center for the next 3 days with Jack, and we're bringing backpacks with 3-ring binders, and we're going to try sell ourselves because everybody fired us. And they've seen the pink slips. Back then they wrote really nice and wrote pink slips to say, kiss your butt, goodbye, pal. Anyhow, one of the Gary Seidler, the two partners, said, I read it and I cried all over my shirt. If you'd promise to buy them at $6 each and buy 20,000 copies, over the next year, we'll publish it. Well, we're both doing seminars, Jack and I separately, about 250,000 people a year. I was doing business people mostly, and heavy in life insurance and MLMs and big churches. And Jack was doing the educational market. So we had some big markets, and we sold the seminars everywhere. Like one of the stories we have in our Ask book, we just got it right before the book got published. Charlie Green wrote and said, man, I saw you at a mega church here in Kansas City. He said, I couldn't believe it. He said, you wowed the audience. You had them spiritually alive. And then at the very end, you said, okay, look, I got this manuscript. Nobody's going to take it. I want you to pray that we're going to sell 1 million copies of this book called Chicken Soup for the Soul. He said, I couldn't believe it. Everybody got up and prayed with you. They stood up and prayed. And then he said, you did the coup de grace, which I really couldn't believe. There's 5,000 people. And you say, and by the way, I don't want to take away from the tithes or love offerings, but all of you have a little slip there. I want you to fill out an order form. And when the book comes out, I promise I'll sign it and send it to you. And I'll get Dr. Canfield to do the same. And I really wanted to have this book. Somebody's going to publish it, and I need you to trust me. And he said, to a person in the room, I mean, it's a very rich church, obviously. They all filled it out and handed it in, because Charlie was one of the, I mean, he's big in the church. He was a deacon in the Dickens or whatever the joke is. But he said, I helped collect. He said, I brought you a bucket full of them. He said, I couldn't believe it. He said, you were so bold to ask. I said, I had nothing to lose. The minister liked me. And the church, the people all thought, wow, I should grow up and be that courageous to go out and ask and do stuff that I haven't been able to do before. Everyone needs to come out of this cocoon we're talking about, this COVID cocoon, to ask more. And we got to get back on track, get working and living and entrepreneuring and leading. And the people that have got to be visionary leaders. Because I say either you got to be a visionary leader that leads, and I need us to be first place again, mentally, and lead yourself and then lead others.
Hey, it's Ann with the Trust Edge team here. As you know, we are passionate about helping you and your team perform at your best. And that's why David wrote his new book, Trusted Leader. This true-to-life parable follows the story of a CEO who uncovers the root issue threatening his organization's success. And in the back half of the book, David provides a roadmap for even how to solve those root issues. Get Trusted Leader for your team, your organization, or even just for yourself at trustedleaderbook.com.
Speaking of leading yourself, a lot of the great leaders are, we talk about this a lot, trusted leadership. They're leading yourself. They're if you're going to lead others, you tend to lead yourself well. What do you do? Do you have routines, habits where this is what I do to lead myself? What am I doing daily, weekly, monthly to lead myself? Because you have a massive voice of leadership to others. What are you doing to lead yourself, or have you over the years?
Perfect. I love the question. I want to go to the macro and then the micro, what I actually do. But the macro is in Psalm 72, Solomon said, the job of you and I as leader is to be an influencer of influencers. When I read that, I highlighted it and I put a star by it and I went, I could be an influencer and an influencer. Sorry, I stuttered, but that's it. So every day, let me go back to a story we put in the book. When Crystal and I were falling in love long ago, we're sitting at the Mother's Market in Costa Mesa. We used to live in California. We now live and love Scottsdale, Arizona. Guy sitting next to us is an old man of the cloth. I mean, serious, mature guy, 90-something. He said, look, I can't help but interrupt. You guys are so in love. Do you mind if I tell you the secret to staying in love? And I'm going to say, no, I don't want to know any secret. He says, I'm head of Billy Graham Relationship Ministries for the last 70 years. I'm 92 years old. I said, whoa, congratulations, Father. Yeah, I said, what is it? He said, people that pray out loud together is the only thing we found that keeps people together. So my wife and I, this before we got married, and obviously every day since then, we spend an hour every morning praying and meditating and visualizing asking each other all the questions. How do we unfold today to be more magnificent, more wonderful for each other and for our kids, our grandkids, our family, our city, our state, our country, and the world, and source and serve at levels that has never been sourced and served at. Like we're co-chairman of Child Help right now, which is busy raising $1 billion. And we've helped 10.5 million kids get out of abuse, neglect, and child trafficking. That's one of the things we're doing. And I think then the second thing we're doing is that we're about to do a podcast. I'm going to invite you to help us with, hopefully get 15 million people help. But what we're going to do is, because the libraries have been closed now for a year, which is not okay with me, just like bookstores going out of business, not okay. I love all those people in the book business. They've been superior to me. So this is not an indictment on anybody. It's a let's get back to work, guys and ladies. And all the libraries have agreed that we're going to have this wonderful day, and America is becoming illiterate because the people are reading too much FaceTime on their cell phones. Kids, I'm talking about. 75% of the kids in California can't read when they graduate high school. And I don't know where you're at, but I have to believe that you agree with me that that's not okay. So what I'm going to do is ask 1/3 of the seniors, the baby boomers, guys and ladies like me, will take, now in Horatio, I take 10 kids and mentor them a year, but I'm going to ask everybody to take just one kid, go to the library, read, teach him or her how to read. It's not, it is a doable assignment in America. And then we got to change that and expand the whole world, because I believe, and I think you do as a leader, the cliche, I think it was John F. Kennedy who said it, all great readers aren't leaders, but all leaders are readers. And if it wasn't John, I don't know who it was, but we can look it up and somebody will claim it.
Lots of people have said it and lots of people have claimed it.
But remember, Jack and I are in the business of trying to do attribution, right. And, but who the heck knows?
I'm pretty sure it was Abraham Lincoln, but didn't he say everything great? I love it.
Who was that?
Well, this gets me thinking about it. We're going all over, and this is the way I do it because you jog my mind on so many things. But you kind of have a framework. You're as far as philanthropy, you're a passionate giver these days, and you're doing a lot of great things with your time, talent, treasures. But you talk about 4 types of tithing: thinking, time, talent, and treasures. We get treasures quickly. We get talent quickly. We get time quickly. What about thinking?
First of all, I wrote a whole book called The Miracle of Tithing, right? Which is really the miracle of giving. And that's where I quoted all that. And I said, then the 5th one, the bonus one, is being thankful. Because you got to have, the more you're thankful for, the more you get. The reason I sell more books than anybody is that we tithe in every book. And, that's a front end guarantee, open up the windows of heaven and I'll pour you down a rich reward. But all you got to do is find cause-related charity when they're in trouble. And let me just give you 2 that were example. So Elizabeth Dole, who would have been a great president, by the way, said, hey, Mark, I'm head of the Red Cross, and you got these crazy ideas, and sometimes they work. I said, thank you. And she says, I'm out of blood. And I said, well, let's get it from the MDs. They watch blood and guts every day, and they should help. She said, I've tried 570,000 MDs, and they won't help. In other words, I think, by the way, now I'm doing my position, I'm on my soapbox, but if you or your kid needs blood, I think you ought to go out and get 10 of your friends to give blood back to replace. We don't have anything called pseudo blood. So if you go to the hospital and you need blood, that's the only thing there is, blood compatible to your blood. Does that make sense?
Yep. So
she said, well, come up with another idea. I said, how fast you need it? Yesterday. I said, good, I have it in 1 week. She said, you can do that? I said, one of my markets is chiropractic. I got 10 honorary doctorates, 3 from chiropractic colleges at Life and at Cleveland and Parker. So I said, I know all 77,000 chiropractors. I teach them how to have high volume, massive practices and cash practices and all that. I've never asked them for anything. I'm going to ask them to call all their old patients and bring them in. And the inactive patients, and get an adjustment or an activated gun or get a massage or whatever they do at the practice. And a lot of these practices are multimodal practices, and they hire MDs to work for them. So it's great stuff. But they see 25 million patients a week. And I said, guys and ladies, you're in trouble right now because insurance stopped paying you. I'm going to make sure you get paid, because I've just done a set of audio tapes where I interviewed all the people, the best chiropractors that make over $1 million a year by doing cash only, no insurance. And we sold a lot of those, but we gave a copy of Chicken Soup for the Soul 3 to everybody that came in to get blood. Well, we got enough blood to be cryogenically frozen for 1.5 years in advance. So we took 2 negatives, and you remember in math, the negative times a negative is a
positive,
right? We get chiropractic in trouble because they've just had their funds cut, right? Follow the money. We've had the blood saying a lot of people are dying. 9 people a minute were dying because there was no blood at the end, no blood at the hospital. Sorry, I shouldn't use a spiritual reference. Hospital, I suppose. I never did that before. I apologize. I don't want to besmirch anybody. But the point is, every problem has a solution. That's why we're saying in our Ask book, what you got to do is get somebody that's willing to think out of the box and do stuff that no one's ever thought about before. and ask bigger questions. Like right now, we got 1 billion people unemployed in the world. Somebody's got to think at a new level. And that's why the last part of the book, where you and I started even before we started the recording, we got Peter Diamandis, who's PhD, MD, Harvard MD, PhD, MIT genius, X-Prize creator. And Peter says, what are you personally going to do during this decade to positively affect 1 billion people? That's a question to everybody. When you drink that question in as a leader, you start saying, hey, wait a second, I got to quit being amateur hour here. I got to be a visionary leader. And remember, what Solomon said is, without vision, we perish. If you put that in English, with vision, we flourish. So I really want to help 1 billion people learn how to read that don't know how to read. Now, do I know how to do that? Heck no. Do I know that I am taking a crazy leadership position that I'll get attacked for by some people saying, well, you can't do that? By the way, that's fine with me, because any leader has a target on his or her back. I think you know that, right?
You want to be critiqued for a living, lead something, right?
Yeah.
Or write a book, or give a speech, right? You'll get critiqued.
Right. Be world's best-selling author, and you got a lot of arrows coming at you.
There's a lot of them.
And I always write the critics back if I see it, and I say, thank you very much. I just really appreciate that. I don't agree with anything you said because blah, 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 but this is what I'm doing. And by the way, when you got a credential that you really can, now, if they got something legitimate to say, I will revector. I'm coachable. That's one of the things a good leader is, I think. And I'm coachable, and I accept coaching. And we say one of our 38 points is feedback's a breakfast of champions. But if you have something asinine, I don't like you because of the way you look, I can't do much about that. I'm bald. It's the way it is, Cal.
How do we start? Like, there's so many places I could go, and I could highlight different, I've highlighted a bunch of parts of this book. We're not going to get through it all. People got to get the book, ask. But how do we start to ask the right questions? How do we start to this journey? It's like some people think, oh, they just ask you, they're just good at it or you're not. How do we start?
There's no such thing as good at it or bad. First of all, as little kids, you ask everything. I don't know if you've got any kids or grandkids. You got any kids?
4.
4. They see, I was one of 4. Crystal is one of 9, and then we got 5 and 6 grandkids. So we're big on kids. The point is that you got to know where you are, because if I call Uber here to my house, they got to know where you are. Where are you today? And you got to ask yourself, and then go through all that stuff. And then the second part is the one where everybody stumbles. Almost 99% of the people stumble. Where do you want to go? Right? And I was stumbling until I said, look, I want to grow up, become world's best-selling author, which people said, you haven't even written a book yet and you want to be world's best-selling? Get out of here. And then third, you go to the nth degree. What actions are you going to have to take to get from here to there? And obviously, what you asked about it before, and I may not have done it, like we're going on the Today Show this long ago, and we're Oprah and all that, and Jack and I are getting up in the morning, doing media all day, doing a luncheon talk, doing a late night talk before all the travel restrictions. You could get on a plane at 11, go to the next place and start all over again. But we get to New York, got finally to the hotel like 1 o'clock. He's still in his 3-piece suit. We had no money, so we're sharing the same room, different beds, of course. And he's sleeping in his 3-piece suit, and I got to wake him up at 3 o'clock because at 5 o'clock, you got to be at NBC to get on Katie Couric and Matt Lauer. And most people don't know that, right? You're going to be there for 3 hours, but you got to be there an hour early. And I'm saying, Jack, you got to get up. And he was saying nasty words to me. And he said, I don't want to. I said, Jack, you don't want to meet Katie Couric. She don't want to meet you. I said, if you don't go, I'll do it alone. I'm big enough. I can handle it. But we were exhausted. And it was exactly what you said. If you're going to do a real leadership job, you got to ask yourself who I am, who am I becoming, and where do I want to go? What is my full-fledged, flat-out destiny? And you got to ask all the way. And then if you got problems, you ask. Hopefully you got a great mentor and you're in a mentee relationship, and hopefully you're mentoring. And then you got to ask your staff, when they come to you with a problem, you say, David, if you're coming to me with whatever problem it is in a company, I say, well, what are 3 solutions do you have? And come back to me tomorrow or an hour from now and tell me the best one of those 3 solutions.
Love it. You know, it's funny. I was just talking to, just had someone else on the show, and she was given also a biblical reference of, back to your mentor piece. She said, we need to have a Paul we get wisdom from. We need to have Timothy. We need to have a someone we're pouring into. And Nathan, you know, we need someone that's going to challenge us like Nathan. We need somebody that's going to encourage us like Barnabas, and this tribe that we need as leaders. And we often say it around here, if you're doing leadership alone, you're doing it wrong. We need others. And that's back to your start as a collaborator. To some people, this seems, you know, oh, my destiny, this is all about me. I'm asking questions for me. It seems selfish. What do you say?
It has to be. Let's just take, you know, when I was with Bucky, I wrote my 100-year goals, all the stuff I'd like to do. I'm going to live the 127th options for no, because you get to write down how long you can live and live that long. But take the richest man in the world right now is one of my heroes, Elon Musk. Whether you like him or not is irrelevant to me. But you got to admit his leadership style is solid. I mean, here's a guy who's told, no, you can't build any more Teslas here at whatever it is, Fremont, California. And so he says, okay, I understand what you said, Mr. Governor, but let me see what I got to do. Calls up 3M company and says, hey, guys, you haven't got the ability to make enough ventilators. I have 3D printing. I've got manpower. I got metal sitting out there. Just give me the thing and we'll split 50-50 and tell me how many you want, and I'll have them done like that. Except that when he did it, David, he's a real leader. See, we don't have many real leaders now. As far as I'm now indicting some people. I'm asking them to wake up, be a real leader, and I'm a real leader. So I'm glad to stand and confront anyone. But he's my hero, right? He made 90,000 cars, became the richest man in the world. And now this week he says, look, in 6 months, I'm going to have two things. I'm going to have a battery about the size of your thumbnail that goes 1,000,000 miles, and your car is going to be so light, we're going to have a new flying car. It's going to be equivalently a robo-taxi because of SpaceX, which is one of the 5 companies. And then, you know, he says, because of SpaceX, I figured out how we can have a vertical liftoff vehicle and then go straight ahead. And people are saying, no, you can't do that. Well, no, they can't do it. Boeing can't do it. Lockheed can't do it. But he's not locked into the same metaphysics. And by the way, the top of physics that Bucky always used to teach is metaphysics, thinking, consciousness, awareness, and, you know, going into God and saying, hey, God, show me how to do this. And it turns out that Elon is exceedingly spiritual and in elevated, ascended consciousness like his hero, Nikola Tesla. I probably went too far again, didn't I?
We want to hear from you. So yeah. So what gets his, I mean, part of this is, you know, Elon Musk is asking different questions, right?
That's it. All of us have the same 24 hours. All of us start out with the same value of $1, and the dollar isn't valuable until you figure out how you ask yourself, how am I going to use this to advance myself? And he had to sell all of his real estate within last year just to keep his company going. So, you know, I admire the guy, because when I had a hiccup back in 2008, I happened to collect crazy watches, and I had to sell every watch to stay afloat. And it's just what you have to do. You got to do. And everyone thinks, well, you're rich and successful and you sold all those books, you can't have a money problem. You try to borrow serious money from your friends and you find out that you do have a money problem, because only serious friends will lend you serious money. And most of my friends who I thought would lend that kind of money and had it wouldn't do it. So it taught me a serious lesson of who's real and who's not.
You know, toward the end of the book, you talk about questioning everything. Tell us about that.
Well, give me a topic and I'll show you how to question it from my point of view, at least.
Well, you know what? I've got 2 of them that I really highlighted. In fact, one of them was how you keep your romance and love life like vibrant. And so maybe a couple thoughts there, and then just the whole. I'll jump into the second one when you answer something about that. How about that?
Okay, so let me wind it back just a little bit. I went through a very painful divorce, and I thought I'd never marry again, and told a lot of my friends that I wouldn't. And I wrote down 267 things in my ideal worth, the qualities, the values, the virtues, the characteristics. We had to both be totally monogamous. She had to have her own business, because I don't want somebody marrying me from a wallet. We had to have exactly the same values. And what I wanted was a soulmate, and what I got was a twin flame, somebody that mirrors me 100%. Like, we can finish each other's thoughts. And she's young girl by 14 years. She's beautiful. She's wonderful. And our kids had to get along. And we decided that we were going to make happily ever after are happily ever after every day. And so every day during that meditation and prayer that we do together every morning, like clockwork, early, usually before podcast. Once in a while we have early podcasts in foreign countries and then do it afterwards. But we've never missed a day and in decades. So we decided we're going to, our relationship with each other is paramount.
So you tell me another level of like, okay, to my partner, my wife, 24 years married, how would I use questions to deepen our love?
Good. Ask her what questions she should be asking you that you've been naive to ask.
Perfect spot to start.
Isn't that a nice place?
Love it. You're kind of like Jesus asking questions back and forth here. Like, don't answer.
By the way, there's never a time that you won't have a wife tell you what you should be asking. Never.
Love it.
It doesn't exist.
Well, another part that I think is relevant to everybody, and you make this comment in the book. I don't have the page. I have my notes on this part, so I can't go through all of it. But don't try to sell. Ask what they need. And you have a client, a strategy, I think, that's beautiful with questions. If we would just ask, ask about them first. Ask about their problems. Ask what the ideal would be. Ask about, what's the perfect scenario for them. Tell about that process, because everybody here is listening. They're growing businesses or have businesses or leading businesses. And I think some people take that wrong. Okay, so we go into the biggest company here in Arizona they manufacture most of the copper for the world, right? Freeport McMoran. I mean, we're talking about $15 billion profit a year. We're talking about a major company, and I'm not the one selling, but Preston Weeks, who we wrote the story about, goes in and this lady is so powerful in this company, to get you. First of all, you got to pay homage. And because I do my homework before we go in, I knew that she was in Africa for 8 years in the Congo. And, to me, that is just exceedingly exciting. I could care less about her business. I want to have her tell me about the Congo. So my wife, by the way, was a missionary kid in Congo. Now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Yeah. Wow.
Congratulations, and tell her thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
So Preston just does this whole thing of asking questions, and they were going to give us 20 minutes, and she did 20 minutes on just at the Congo. And then now an hour and a half, 2 hours has gone by, and they said, we got to tell you, yesterday, a $64 billion company came in there and they said, we got this is what you need. This is what you got to do. And they said, we kicked them out. 4 guys that were seasoned professionals that were insulting to, yes, they're a $64 billion company. Yes, we're a $15 billion profit company, but you just don't push, right? They had no relationship ability. Questions are always going to be the answer. If you ask the right question, you can get anywhere in the world. Can I give a quick personal story on that?
Please. Love it.
So when I met Crystal, I did the Author 101, and I'm in the VIP room and surrounded by people late at night on a Saturday night. And she's across the way, and a lady hits a glass of red wine. My wife wasn't drinking and wipes out her white pants. Well, I see this. I part the seas, grab her hand. I say, I know where the whatever that stuff is that gets rid of a stain in pants. Anyhow, right now I'm blank on it, but that night I had the answer. I asked her I'm making it short, can I take you to dinner? And she said, yeah, we get to the best place in Hollywood. And I mean, the line's 50 people long. And I go, oh, yikes, $100 bill isn't going to get me in. So I think, well, we'll just charge up to the gatekeeper. And he sees how beautiful my wife is. I mean, she's been a top model and star and all that on lots of magazine covers and stuff, and says, okay, I give up. Who is she? I said, you don't recognize her? Now I'm goofing around. I figure I'm not getting in any other way. And his mind's going on steroids through People magazine and InStyle and Vogue, and he can't figure out. He thinks she's a movie star because she has superb presence and effervescence, and pulchritudinous just emanates out every pore of my wife's being. And anyone who doesn't can go look at the pictures online with us, and you'll see that, I pale in comparison, and I'm so blessed. Anyhow, so guy says, okay, I give up. Who is she? Now we're both of Danish descent, so I'm goofing still. I say, she's a queen of Denmark. He says, no, she's not. And he says, oh my gosh, she is. Who are you? Back to questions. I said, who travels with the queen? He said, you're the king. Hold on one second. In that fast, we had the best table in the place, and the chef's coming out with a houndstooth pan. And club soda is what gets stains,
Yes.
blood. And sorry, I couldn't, my mind was so far from telling you that. Anyhow, so, and we started talking and just, she'd gone through a divorce. I'd gone through a divorce. It was like, we'd been best friends forever. And I'm saying, for those that are single out there, there is some perfect person, no matter what your chronology, assuming you're over 21 and probably marriageable, there's somebody out there for you. There's 8 billion people, so 4 billion are women, more or less. So, plenty of chance.
Hey, it's Sam from the Trust Edge team. Most training and development initiatives don't last or even solve the root issue hindering your organization. And that's where Trust Edge coaching certification comes in. Trust Edge coaches are equipped with a suite of tools to identify, benchmark, and close gaps in trust for good. Because when you solve the real issue, you get measurable results in a culture where people actually want to make an impact. So whether you're a coach with your own clients or a leader training people inside your organization, check out trustedgecoaching.com and see how you can start solving the root issue and get lasting results in your business. And now back to the show.
Wow. This has been fascinating. I could ask questions all day. I've got to honor your time here. This is, wow. One of my favorites of the last 5 minutes was questions are always the answer. There we go. Questions. If you haven't put that, I don't remember that in the book, but.
It was one of those lines in there. It just is great. Yeah. And I even put it in my quote book a long time ago. And I hope I didn't steal that from somebody, but being an omnivorous reader, it is possible that I did it. And
Abraham Lincoln.
By the way, he was a trusted leader and had a tough go of it. And I happened to come from his home state, at least what they claimed was his home state, Illinois. So I'm scholarly in him at a lot of levels. And Dale Carnegie wrote a book about him. And, when I was there, so I even know that stuff. So
how do you keep, I'm just going to just open up here, just to touch base on a little bit of leadership and just some things I'm thinking about. How do you stay so fresh and creative? You're reading? Well, that's one thing. You keep reading. You're not just a writer, you're a reader. But what are some of the things you do to just stay, fresh? You've written on so many things, financial and relational and life. And, you become an expert in several different businesses. How do you keep, this is a little bit Elon Musk-ish.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you should never retire. I did write the book, like you said, with Art Linkletter, How to Make the Rest of Your Life Best Your Life. And he was 98. The only reason he died is not his health. He missed his wife who had, I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings here, but she got Alzheimer's and he couldn't handle it. She died and then, she wasn't with him. She didn't remember him. And like a month before he died, he called Crystal and I up because he loved us. Her daddy owned all the Kentucky Fried Chicken in Mexico, which I did not know until, we were up there. That was not something you don't ask, what does your daddy own, right? I mean, it's just not, what do you do? I met her dad, and the first thing he did is he put his hand in a bag and pulled out a pearl-handled gun in Idaho. And I said, well, look, I'm a pretty good shot myself, but I would like a gun if we're going to have a shootout here over your daughter. And he and I became great friends. He was a superstar. Wait, what was your question? I totally.
Well, I think there's just a piece here. I think it's interesting to me. How do you keep innovating? You keep. I could answer some of it for you, but you keep fresh. Some of that's books. Some of that's that you're asking the right questions. But it's just staying so creative. Anything else that you'd bring up?
The people you hang out with, you got to be alive. And I got to tell you that because you're a podcaster and a great one. Is it? I believe podcasting is when I grew up in the 50s, we had the first TV in a block. My dad financed it for the rest of his life. It was $700. And back then that was in the 50s. That was giant money, right? But everyone would come and watch our TV and there were 3 channels. The question is, what channel are you turned to? And if you're turned to positivity, you stay positive. And I'm saying everybody's got to shut off the negativity in the news now. It's too blatantly painful and distressing and depressing, and it takes you down rather than up. So if you listen to positive stuff, like I've got all kinds of stuff on Audible, like I'm sure you do, and you listen to all that stuff and the stuff from Nightingale Conant and the stuff that brings out the best in you, and then you hang out with really positive-minded people, and that's where I was going to go. I have, and it may just be who I am, but all the podcasts that have accepted us and put myself and Crystal on, every one of them has been positive. Every one of them been uplifted. We've done 3 today. And all of them were exalted spirits. They're not dull, boring, because I got to tell you, in the old days when Jack and I did it, we used to have to carry the radio shows. Like we would do, once we were doing media, sometimes we'd do 5 or 6 what's called phoners a day. And those guys, they never read the book. They never saw the book. They didn't know what the book was. And, so if they'd ask a question, well, how are you today? I'd say the reason we wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul is to tell you how to have a good day each and every day, whatever.
I got to jump here just because it just came in front of my face. Was the Praxis Leadership Group out of New York, and this is biblical truth too. It's a guy at Harvard. You probably know it, but I was just listening to him this week, and he was talking about how. So we brought up a lot of biblical this time. So Christians, he said, basically they've been known for these C's in the last decades. They condemn, or they critique, or they just consume stuff, but the only way to change things for the better is to create or cultivate. We can't just be about condemning. We can't be about
curate. I'd add a third C. They got to curate.
Curate. There you go. And you've got your contributing charity. So we got to get to the lightning round. You've been such a massive gift and such a
thank you. I've enjoyed every second.
Yeah. Well, let's get some quick takeaways in the lightning round. A favorite tip for everybody or advice, financial.
Well, the cliche is obviously earn more than you spend, but they ought to read my 1 Minute Millionaire book, because what I do is I say, hey, look, I'm here to create 1 million millionaires, and there's 1 million ways to make 1 million, and there's one right, perfect, easy, acceptable way to each of us. And today you've got to have 1 million for every reason. And 1 million's a minimum if you ever want to retire. And I don't want anyone to retire. I want to put on new tires and go in a new, better direction.
Right. Perfect. One best piece of advice for leadership.
I would ask everyone to consider going into the deeper, secret place of the Most High inside their consciousness and figure out what are they as the biggest visionary leader that they could be. And today we've talked about Elon Musk, but I've read 5,000 biographies and autobiographies. I've been hired now to write a big biography, and I've never done that before, and I'm really excited. But this guy was a visionary that I can't talk about yet because I got an NDA. But everybody needs to study the visionaries and become a visionary. Everyone's here to be a history maker, a record breaker. The Bible says in Ephesians, you're God's greatest masterpiece. If you're God's greatest masterpiece, you're supposed to do masterful things, not minimal things. And yes, the church did some terrible things, because anytime you got a full group, you're going to have some corrupt people, some few percentage. But if you look at them, then you become like that. So if you look at the best, the brightest, the wisest, the Mother Teresa's, she says, I'm just a pencil in the hand of God. What a great line.
Absolutely. What is I'm going to ask you this, because, my parents are in their 90s, still continual learners, they still run the farm, definitely not retirers. But I love how they're learning even to talk to their grandkids and now great-grandchildren through technology and other things. What's a favorite tech or app or gadget for you?
Well, first of all, Art Linkletter, he was in '96 when we wrote the last book together, and he said, look, we've taught our kids how to read. They got to teach us how to use technology. And I just thought, that's so cool, Art. And he did Kids Sign the Harness things, and people are funny in House Party. My favorite, I would say I live too much on my cell phone just because I carry it with. And when I exercise 6 to 7 days a week aggressively, because I think it's part of the Fountain of Youth, that plus extraordinary nutrition. So I am listening to extraordinary podcasts by guys like Brian Scott and he has taken all the historical classics and put them together, that and all the stuff by Dr. Tracy Jones, who I'm sure you know is Charlie Tremendous Jones's daughter, and is a great leadership, profound military superstar, come trainer par excellence.
What is, speaking of that, what is, let's go here. You just said it. What's some exercise habit that you have?
I do, well, first of all, we live at the top of McDowell Mountain, and we climb the mountains a couple times a week, and it's just spectacular. As I look out my window here in my office, it's spectacularly beautiful. I got to tell you right now, it's 70 degrees. Arizona and right now we've had so much rain that our mountains are green, our air is pristine. There's very few people here. Arizona is a basically empty state. It's as big as Israel, as you probably know. So I do mountain climbing, but we also, we bicycle and we're part of the villages. So I do every kind of calisthenic and muscle training, because you age at the level that you don't take care of your body. And Peter Guber, who's 80 and looks 40, the first time I went to his $62 million third house, we arrive and it's 9:30 on a Saturday night. And the guy says, suit up. And I thought, oh my gosh, am I supposed to have a tuxedo? I got a Aloha shirt. And he said, no, get on your exercise clothes. And I said, what are you telling me? He said, Peter wants you in a gym in 10 minutes. And I said, okay, I got gym clothes with it. It's easy. And he exercised twice a day. And that's why he looks so good. And, he's really vigorous. I mean, we've run together, played rugby together, swam together. We've traveled around the world together. Just, the guy's in superb shape and he's 80. And most people at 80 are going, I need my cane. That old thing. Where's my cane?
Oh. I think this is where my dad could keep up. Dad and Mom, I'm just so proud of them. It's like 40 below zero up there right now, and they're like, "Yeah, I have to do indoor exercise when it gets to 10 below." So they anyway, then they just move it inside. Yeah. So favorite book or resource right now, other than Ask Bridge, the bridge from your dreams to your destiny. Some other book or resource that's inspiring to you right now.
Right now, I just got that Dollars Want You. It's an old classic book, costs $4 on Amazon. It's inspired me to write the whole new iteration. I'm writing right now, Money Wants You. Isn't that a cool title?
That's cool.
It's going to be a big book. I was reading what I wrote last night, a couple hours, to my wife, and she said, wow, that is totally inspired. I said, I just saw that guy's title, and I thought we ought to redo it because, How to Have Self-Mastery of Opulence is a subtitle. Because look, God only knows abundance. He built the universe 15.7 billion years ago, if that's the true number. I'm not a geologist or a cosmogonist or a cosmologist, but, I'll buy that term, and built the earth 5 billion years ago. If all that stuff got created and it's perfect, then you and I have got some perfection, and spirit can figure out how to solve any problem that exists. I really believe.
What's left for Mark Victor Hansen? What's one hope for the future? Bucket list or just a hope?
I've got 10 mega goals and everything from like housed humanity expeditiously, and now I'm going to considerably before I'm 127 and take all trash and turn it into cash. And I'm part of a company called QCI. As a matter of fact, the chairman called me today. But they spent $300 million in Michigan and figured out at QCI how to turn glass back to glass, metal to metal, plastic to plastic, water to water. And we can take the 10,000 landfills and turn them back into a resource, because we can't keep polluting the earth. I got the privilege opening the pyramids down in Guatemala with the head of anthropology and archaeology at Harvard if I'd write something for National Geographic, which I thought, I read National Geographic. I didn't ever think I could write for it. It tickled me. And for 2 weeks, we sweat our butt off. It's 120 degrees. But we're talking about a culture that had 10 million people that built these great pyramids, as great as Egypt, and we were 200 feet under the ground. They built a long story, but the point is that they killed themselves because they didn't think through their own pollution. Their own pollution killed them. I mean, Dr. Saturno said every morning we'd argue about questioning each other. What killed these people? Was it a temperature inversion? Was an asteroid hit the Earth? What the hell killed that many people that long ago? They had 6-lane highways. These guys, and we don't have any, we can't read cachet. And this guy would stand on top of a pyramid. There was one every 30 miles. If you look at it, you can look at the stuff on, everyone knows to call, or if you study anything about pyramids, it's bigger than any of the Egyptian pyramids. But he had written in concrete something. But Bill can't, Dr. Saturno said, look, Mark, can you figure that out? I said, I'm pretty good at linguistics, but I know English and I know German and I know Danish and Hindi Urdu, but you got me here. I don't have a clue. And nobody knows what the hell the language was because they all died all at once.
That's amazing.
So I said to Bill, and what we wrote is, my supposition is that they didn't know about germs and all that. So they polluted themselves just innocently. But, you put 10 million people together, you're going to have a lot of garbage.
So there's one of your 10 mega goals. Well, this is a good inspiration. Have mega goals to change the world. It has been a huge honor. I have one more question for you, even though I'd love to talk all evening. I could keep going, but I'm so grateful for your time. Our audience, the trusted leaders, are grateful for your time today. And before I get there, though, where can we find out more? We have all the links to you on the chat at trustedleadershow.com. But where would you especially like us to find out more about Mark Victor Hansen?
3 issues with your permission, sir. Number one is I want everyone to get a copy of Ask, and maybe 2 copies, and give one to a friend and go over it. And they can Ask the Bridge from Your Dreams to Destiny at Amazon for sure, and any bookstore that's open that has them. We'd love to have that. And then number two is that I want everyone, that leader, to write a book, because then they find out who they are. And I've just finished a book called You Have a Book in You, and you can get it really inexpensive if you go to HansenInstitute.com, HansenInstitute.com. And we are helping everybody now from soup to nuts. Everything. I'll help you with the title. I'll help you with the book. We'll help you speed write it in 90 days, because we need leaders that lead. I beat on you throughout this thing, David. I hope not too hard, saying we need more visionary leaders. I don't think you disagree. If you do, I'd be surprised running a show like this. But what if everybody really started to lead themselves, started to discipline themselves, started to grow, started to learn, started to share? Because everybody is an expert at something. And everybody can write something to somebody that nobody else can share because they don't know it. And we need to have that elevated consciousness, because everything comes out of ideas and consciousness. And we're at the first time in history where we can share our consciousness, thanks to back to our friend Elon Musk. He's putting up right now 40,000 satellites and building a new internet that's going to be unhackable, unbreakable, military-proof, cyber-proof. And you got to say that's like way cool and very gutsy and very expensive.
Absolutely. I knew you were writing that new book. I'm glad you put it in there. We'll put that in the show notes. Absolutely. But I think there's several things that happen on your second book there. When you write a book, you do learn about yourself. You have a book in you, right? You learn about yourself, which helps you. That back to Socrates. Know yourself. If you're going to lead yourself, you need to know yourself, and then you can share that vision with others. So, last question, unless you want to say anything else to us today. This is the question.
That was the last question, but go ahead.
We're all ears. The last question is, hey, it's the Trusted Leader Show. Who is a leader you trust and why? Let's move beyond Elon. You've got a lot of them. But who's a leader you trust right now and why?
By the way, I've got so many that I like, love, trust, respect, and admire. In my business, there's a guy who's changing the book business invisibly to you and to most people, Joe Soto, S-O-T-O. He makes a fortune, but he's created funnels, and he's created how to make sure
I do know him, by the way.
And well, by the way, I will write him a note when we're done and ask him to interview with you, because he doesn't do many, but he's a genius, and I'm thankful to say he's a great close friend. I mean, the people, like back to what you said about collaboration, the people that I'm working with blow my mind, because I listen to them and I go, I sit at their feet and I'm so thankful we're at a time when, because of transportation, travel, Zoom, internet, you and I are able to get with people literally around the world. And they're wonderful.
Well, that was a fun, and I know there are so many you could have named, but I'm going to text Joe right after this and let him know that he is, we've hired him. He was a friend before that. We were in a mastermind group before that, and
I had no idea.
Yeah,
I didn't.
No, I know. That's fantastic. So check out the show notes at trustedleadershow.com. You'll find everything about Mark Victor Hansen. Please say hi to Crystal Dwyer Hansen, and just a huge thanks to her and her contribution to the world and through these books and everything you're doing as a partnership. So we just are grateful, and just a huge thank you. This has been the Trusted Leader Show. Until next time, stay trusted.